This e-learning serves as a general orientation to the performance planning and review process for all Local 88 employees. It is referred to as PPR. Receiving feedback on our job performance is a necessary part of our professional lives, yet it may come to us in a variety of ways. Throughout our careers, each of us may have had less than stellar experiences with giving or receiving performance reviews. Let's consider this our old story. Our new story involves clear communication and healthy collaboration between employees and supervisors. Many supervisors and employees are already engaging in this type of collaborative process. If this story does not quite match up with your current experience, the PPR offers tools that supervisors and employees will find easy to use and result in meaningful discussion. Multnomah County is committed to supporting excellent employee performance and professional growth. The purpose of PPR is to enhance communication and productivity, recognize strengths and contributions, and support ongoing professional development. The PPR form is meant to be your communication tool throughout the year, not just at year end. It will allow supervisors and employees to plan in the beginning of the year, have ongoing feedback during the year, and then have a review at the end of the year. Let's look at how this works as a full year cycle. This is the part we are familiar with, the year-end review. But PPR actually starts when employee and supervisor first use the form to discuss, agree upon, and document job performance expectations for the year ahead. This is also the time when supervisors can share department goals and help employees see how their jobs fit into the bigger picture. Employee and supervisor then revisit the form and use it to guide conversation on progress. The supervisor and employee engage in a formal sit-down discussion in the middle of the year. Ideally, you want to be reviewed on the same things you plan for and get feedback on throughout the year, and this should not involve any surprises. It should be a collaborative discussion and involve two-way communication. Now that we have an understanding of the three main concepts, planning, feedback, and review, let's dive into the tools you will use. The PPR form, the guidelines, the employee competency menu, and the position description. You should have hard copies of each of these documents in front of you as we move through the rest of this orientation. The guidelines are the detailed guide on the PPR process. The guidelines walk you through planning, feedback, and review, giving you an idea of what is expected from employee and supervisor in each phase and what parts of the form are to be completed. The PPR form is initially filled in with an employee's specific job information at the beginning of the year during planning. This same form will then be filled in with comments and ratings at the time of review. Let's take a quick look at the basic sections of the form. The essential job functions and the competencies are the key sections where employees receive evaluation ratings, comments, and set goals or improvement actions for the year to come. Professional development is also a critical piece. These sections allow for additional narrative. Now let's get specific about how each part of the form is completed as we move through the discussions that occur between employee and supervisor. When you are planning, you will complete the gray numbered boxes in the essential job functions and competencies sections. You will also complete the development and training section. One of the essential job functions for Florence as an office assistant to scheduler is to answer incoming calls and to screen and route them appropriately. How do Florence and her supervisor identify this as one of the key functions for the position? They start with the position description. Every Multnomah County position has a description. You should be able to look at the essential job functions on the position description and translate the information into 4 to 6 key areas of responsibility to put on your PPR form. Keep in mind, this is not a complete list of an employee's day-to-day work, but should reflect the key areas of responsibility under which those tasks would fall. Florence and Clara were able to summarize this list into 4 main areas of responsibility. Employee and supervisor then discuss what does meets expectations look like for each of the job functions. Florence and Clara may have different perceptions about what it looks like to do the job well. If they don't talk about this, Florence may be confused if she later receives feedback that her performance isn't meeting expectations. Clara may be frustrated and default to negative assumptions about Florence's motivations or capabilities. It is the supervisor's responsibility to ask, listen, and work towards a common understanding. The essential job functions reflect what you are responsible for accomplishing in your job. The competencies reflect how you get the work done and the skills you utilize. As Florence and Clara move on to discussing competencies, they will use the competency model to identify the behavioral skills needed for success in accomplishing the job functions. Each competency has a definition and descriptive behavioral statements below it. Supervisor and employee collaborate to choose competencies relevant to the position and specific to the employee. Have a balanced approach so competencies reflect employee strengths and improvement areas. Florence and Clara started by copying the exact language for the customer service competency into Florence's PPR. They talked further and came up with slightly different language in describing the customer service skills needed for Florence's job. Similar to the essential functions section, the discussion should then focus on what does meets expectations look like for each of these competencies. The final section of the PPR that should be addressed in the planning discussion is professional development and training. Employee and supervisor discuss the employee's development needs and career path and agree on a plan that offers the employee relevant training and opportunities for growth. When the planning discussion and documentation is complete and the employee and supervisor feel they are on the same page regarding expectations, the PPR is then a guide for ongoing feedback. It should also guide the mid-year check-in. Planning and feedback are the focus for most of the year. When it comes time for review, the conversation should not involve any surprises.